faces out there. We're going to give things just a couple minutes here because there's about 70 people who had RSVP'd, and it looks like we have about 26 on the line. So just give us a moment or two here as other people join, and grab your cocktail and get ready for an hour of fun. Great to see you guys. Wow, I'm having a flashback to like the last 30 years of my life at Starbucks by looking at all these people. So I'm a little overwhelmed.
Love it. Hi, everybody. So nice to see everybody. My goodness.
Cy Cain is our special guest tonight. We're going to do a formal introduction in just a few minutes, but welcome, Cy.
Thank you, Doug. Glad to be here.
I'll give it one more minute.
Did I see that Andrea has joined the call?
Is that Andrea Moudakis from Central California? Oh my gosh.
Yona just came on.
Representing from Pismo Beach.
Yeah.
And I apologize. I mean, I know I'm crashing the alumni party, but Doug, you know, all disclosure, you sent this out to a bunch of current Starbucks partners as well. So hello, everyone. It's fun to see Nancy's face in there too. Great to see you, Cy.
You as well, Andrea.
Alumni and current partners all welcome, so no crashing.
I see Yona on this call. She's getting dialed in.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to kick it off here at 5:08. So welcome to the Green Apron Alliance Inspired Stories from the Kitchen series. My name is Doug Koob. I'm the founder of Circle Alliances, which is a consulting company based in San Mateo, California. I'm a founding board member of the Green Apron Alliance, and I lead business partnerships for the organization. The mission of the Green Apron Alliance is to create a space for Starbucks alumni to achieve their dreams and make the world a better place by amplifying a legacy of service, caring, and community. Our Inspired Stories series continues tonight and in the coming weeks with a twist. Tonight, we're from the kitchen. We've organized a 4-part Zoom webcast series over the next few months where we're featuring Starbucks alumni who are cooking up new businesses, brands, and products in the kitchens beyond the siren. The purpose of the series is to connect Green Apron Alliance members from around the world with inspired stories and tasting experiences from Starbucks alumni, and to discover what they've learned from building their food and beverage businesses after Starbucks. So before I get on with introductions tonight for our special guests, just a few logistics. This will be an interactive tasting experience. So for those of you that have pre-ordered items from STRAiGHTAWAY, such as these items that I ordered here to my house in San Mateo, get ready to pour those for an interactive tasting experience with Cy. If you didn't order anything, we hope you order in the future. There'll be a special discount we'll talk about later. But meanwhile, it is happy hour, so just grab a cocktail and join in the fun. Mandy Levine, who's up in Seattle, is Green Apron Alliance Event Task Force Lead, is going to be the Zoom controller tonight. She'll have everyone on mute for most of the event. However, if you can scroll down to the bottom of your screen where your toolbar pops up, you can see chat. So click on chat to make sure and use the interactive chat feature to ask a question or make a comment. And Cy and myself and Sharina, who's on the screen, who works on Cy's team, she's waiting there. Between Mandy and Cy, myself and Sharina, we'll make sure to answer any question that you have. So I think we're gonna get going here. So the first up in this series of Inspired Stories from the Kitchen is Cy Cain, who's the co-founder of STRAiGHTAWAY in Portland. And this is a really special night for me. Kicking off this series, it's gonna be really fun the next few months. But it's really special because Cy and I worked together in the early 90s in Portland. So I'm truly honored to have him here tonight and super excited for what you guys are going to see and participate in the next hour. Cy was an 11-year Starbucks partner from 1997 to 2008. He held multiple roles over his Starbucks career, including store manager, operations manager for Starbucks licensed stores, field specialist, district manager for licensed stores, district manager for company-operated Starbucks stores, and regional managers for Seattle's Best Coffee. In 2008, Cy followed his dream and founded STRAiGHTAWAY along with his business partner, Casey Richwine. STRAiGHTAWAY is a Portland-based distillery and winery that batches proper cocktails for your effortless enjoyment. Welcome, Cy, and thank you so very much for kicking off our Inspired Stories from the Kitchen series. It's super great to have you here with us tonight. Absolutely,
Doug. Thanks for the invite, and this is just fabulous. It's kind of a dream come true here to be able to connect back up with the team and partners. There's so many names on the list of folks that were joining us tonight that I was like just so happy to see. Got an opportunity, obviously, to work with you, but so many other people are on this call too, and so just really excited to be able to connect again. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. No, the connections are so much about what the organization is about. So for those of you that have been on Green Apron Alliance, events, inspired stories and whatnot, welcome back. And for those of you who it's your first time, welcome. It's really fantastic to have you part of our community. So we've got about 45, 50 minutes here. And I've got a series of questions. And so I'm going to ask Cy a bunch of questions, and then every so often, just in kind of a random order, we're going to break for a cocktail break.
Yeah.
So I'll let Cy decide which cocktail we open and when, and have him talk about the cocktails. And then, like I mentioned earlier, just feel free to add questions and comments in the chat. And Sharina and Mandy and myself and Cy will make sure and get those answered. So here's my first question. Cy, you had a wonderful 11-year career with Starbucks from 1997 to 2008. Can you talk about your roles that you had at Starbucks during your time with the company and the teams that you were a part of with the organization?
100%. And I'm going to call our first sipping timeout, Doug, already, early on. So for those of you that had placed an order before our call, we start back in Starbucks days and back with Tazo Tea. Everything always started with a tasting or a cupping. And kind of an introduction into our tasting room, which is where I'm sitting right now, an introduction to STRAiGHTAWAY. If you have your bottle of Lintic, or if you had a bottle of Lintic handy, I just want to give everybody a chance to try that together. Thank you, Doug. Perfect. He's already, looks like a little bit of that's already missing, which is fantastic. I like that even better. Yes. Lintic was really kind of our, the moment that we went from being pretty OCD level hobbyists around making cocktails to, oh my goodness, actually this is something I think we might be able to do professionally or permanently. And we discovered this 95-year-old recipe in this 90-year-old book. And this is a cocktail from the Hotel Manila Bar in the Philippines. It's called Lintic, and our muse was a world traveler. He was kind of an OG Anthony Bourdain type. And he was a writer for like the New Yorker and a couple other publications in Manhattan, and he lived wide, life high, wide, and handsome. He was a bon vivant, loved food and drink. He palled around with Hemingway. Prohibition hits, and he's like, well, screw this. If the country's going dry, I'm getting a drink. I'm out of here. So he books around the world cruise ship pass, and he just starts floating around the world, and he'd pull up at all these different ports of call. He would eat and drink his way through all the menus of the best bars and the best restaurants. And he happened to hole up at the Hotel Manila Bar, which back in the 30s was a big swinging going affair. And he tried Lintic for the first time, and the drink just captivated him. He asked the bartender to share the recipe. The bartender did. And then fast forward 90 years later, my co-founder partner, Casey, sees this recipe in this old book, tries batching some of this 7 years ago. We take it to a beach party. We batch some other cocktails for the first time. And we have this double aha moment of Lintic deserved to survive the 1930s and make it out of the Hotel Manila Bar. It's a wonderful cocktail. It's gin aged over lemon peel and lemon zest, bitters and simple syrups. It takes a few weeks for it all to come together and get made. And then we have the double light bulb moment of like, oh my God, we were the nerds packing 20 bottles each into our trunk and melting down our simples and making our bitters, and it was this whole to-do. So we discovered Lintic was amazing. It was this hidden covered gem that we wanted to uncover and unearth and introduce to people. And then part 2 was, how in the world did we not think of batching cocktails earlier just to make life easier? So just want to start everybody with the cheers. Every one of our labels tells the origin story of the cocktail. They're kind of hieroglyphic in nature, so aside from looking colorful and fun, Lintic is actually, the native tongue of the Philippines is Tagalog, and in Tagalog, Lintic means 2 things. It means lightning, and it means damn it. And we pretty much have our guy getting struck by lightning and probably saying damn it, because it's one of those drinks that sneaks up on you. You don't really know it's 50 proof until a few, maybe too many drinks in. You realize it was a 50 proof drink. So lightning can strike, for sure. So sorry, Doug, for the aside, but we're in a distillery and I'm just having a sip.
No, I love that. It's happy hour. That's what it's all about. So fantastic. Love that story. Super engaging. Every cocktail should have a great story, and Lintic definitely does. So cheers to everybody on the phone here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow, super great. Wow, I love the taste of that. Really, really bright. Wow, really refreshing. Perfect for my 84-degree day in San Mateo.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, we really try to do balanced drinks. We don't favor sweetness over anything else and bump up sugar to lower ABV to make it more appealing. We're really trying to speak to cocktail fans and cocktail drinkers and make a proper cocktail like you would have at your favorite bar or restaurant. Okay, longest sidetrack ever, Doug. Sorry about that. But yeah, so Starbucks for me, I started as a store manager. I loved that opportunity. You know, it was back when I can't remember how many stores we had in Oregon, but I don't think it was more than 40 at the time. And I started out at the Oak Grove store, store 411, I want to say it was. And I had a great time there as a store manager, and then licensed stores started to really come to fruition and pass, and that was not shortly after that. I got to work with Doug and so many other people on the call. And by the time it was all said and done, I was helping get the Seattle's Best brand into as many doors as we could possibly get. And I think, you know, that last year I was there, I think in my region, we opened something like 80 to 100 Seattle's Best locations across the country, and just my part of it. And the other 2 regional managers had their fair share too. So it was just hyper growth. And I was always attracted to the parts of Starbucks, looking back, I was always attracted to the parts of Starbucks where maybe not all the structure was in place or not all the roadmap was completely drawn up yet. And it was up to us to figure it out. And should there be a rule here? Yes. Should there be something in place over here? Yes. And let's go build it. And so for whatever reason, like a moth to a flame, I've always been attracted to helping be a part of creating structure and teams where maybe there wasn't before.
Yeah, super cool. So if I think back to those early days working together, there were so many foundational pieces that weren't in place. And you were so responsible for laying the groundwork for those. And lots of people that I see on the screen here tonight were as well. And that's super cool. You were also just responsible for just killing it in terms of opening new stores. And the ops teams that I had by my side for my 23 years at Starbucks were my heroes, making it happen. And so talk a bit about that, like the growth, all those stores you opened with Seattle's Best Coffee, and how does that prepare you for going into business for yourself and opening your own company in 2018?
Yeah, I think, you know, through my career, I've just had a great vantage point to be able to see so many different things and see how they come together and see how they work and what works and what doesn't work. I think those hyper growth, you know, years for Starbucks, it was really seeing what could be done. Like you might look at that on paper and say, well, there's just no way in hell we're going to be able to open that many stores this summer or this fall or winter over the course of the year. But to your point, Doug, when you have a great group of people, a great team, and I think that was one of the things that fueled Starbucks growth was their ability to attract best of class talent and everybody coming together and working towards a common purpose and goal. And I just think we, personally, from my standpoint, just really benefited from, you know, the leadership of the company and the lofty goals that we had, and that there wasn't a lot of sitting on our hands. Everybody was out there hustling and making it happen and building something that had never been built before.
Yeah, no, great points. It always comes back to the people and leadership, and we talk about that a lot at Green Apron. And I remember those days working with you, and that's certainly true from that era as well. So fantastic. What are some of your proudest accomplishments and memorable moments from working at Starbucks? There's so many in those 11 years, but what are some highlights?
Man, that's a tricky one. So there's a lot of standout moments. I remember in Portland, we had a really special relationship with Kink, and I was the district manager for downtown, the downtown stores, Pioneer Courthouse Square, First Oregon store, and Portland's Living Room. And we used to have these amazing free concerts that would happen down there. And I remember being a part of those with the marketing team here in Portland. And that was really amazing. I had some really fun. I remember my last day as a store manager when I'd been hired out to go to licensed stores. I was in the Sellwood store. That was my second store I had managed. And of course, my last night I signed up to close, leading by example, and shutting down the shop one final time. And the last customer of the night, something went wrong in the bathroom. The plumbing all went haywire, and I spent probably an extra 2 hours that night addressing a pretty serious issue in there. I had to actually disrobe. I threw my shoes, my pants, my apron, and everything in the dumpster out back, got in my car and my underwear to my house. And that was my sign off as a store manager, and that one always stands out. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many things. I think, you know, when you look back at all the things that got built and you had a hand in it, it's, that feels really cool.
Yeah. That is a great story, and I can see all the operators on the screen, like Sarah Wilgress and Mary Barrett and Andrea Madakis. We're getting a chuckle out of that. So I think people can probably relate to some of those stories.
Mary may or may not remember those pants. I remember Mary giving me very specific feedback to dress better. I really needed that feedback at the time.
Who were some of your mentors or people that you looked up to at Starbucks, and how have they impacted you in your career after Starbucks?
Wow. Well, I mean, a lot of folks on this call I've worked for, and every one of you had a hand in my development, which was fantastic, from you, Doug, to you, Andrea, and you, Mary, as well. And I think Weldon, I don't know if Weldon's made the call, but he tried to slip me a 20 to say it was going to be him. You know, one of my icons in my personal career and my personal life, I was just a giant Steve Smith fan, Stash and Tazo and Smith Tea, and I really admired him and his leadership style and what he had built, you know, repeatedly. He just kept going back to the well and reinventing. And I think that really struck me as a fellow, you know, budding, burgeoning entrepreneur. The act of reinvention in the same category over and over and over again and having success with it is a real standout for me too.
Yeah, you know, Steve Smith, I had the pleasure of knowing as well, and superhuman being and just an amazing entrepreneur. And you know, it's a good segue. We didn't even talk about this when we prepped, but on August 6th, our next series is going to be with Tony Tellen, who helped build Tazo and Smith Tea Maker, and now his new company, A. Tellen Company. So mark your calendars, you guys, for August 6th. He'll be with us. But Steve just impacted so many people in so many ways. And I remember those days when we were working together in Portland, all the food service accounts for Starbucks, we could always bring him down to the river at the Tazo office, and Steve would save the accounts. All the big hotels that wanted to drop us because we were getting too big, Steve was the one that, you know, kept him in the portfolio. So
yeah.
Great mentor for a lot of us. Super cool story. Just tell me when we're ready for the next cocktail break. I'm always in for that. So
love it. You never ask. Okay, perfect. So here we go. I would say let's go to the Cosmo next. If you guys have the Cosmo handy. So this is, you know, the Cosmopolitan obviously had its zenith with Sex and the City. No self-respecting bartender would make it after it had peaked. And it just kind of died. But we really thought that was a cool cocktail that deserved a second chance and a second look. And so we kind of wanted to bring it back, but with kind of a Portland foodie vibe. And so essentially this was reverse engineered by two guys who had never really had a Cosmo. And that would be Casey and myself. And we said, well, here's the bones, the structure of a Cosmo. How would we want it to taste? What would we want to drink? And so that's how we went about creating this cocktail. This is another 50 proof spirit. The bottle size that Doug has and I have will yield 2 to 3 cocktails out of each size, so you can share it, or if you've got a big night at home, you can knock one of these back over the course of the evening. But the origin story of the Cosmos is kind of, there's two storylines. One was a bartender in New York who claims he invented it in 1985. And then there was a bartender on Miami Beach in 1985. Her name was Cheryl Cook. She didn't say she was the one that had invented the Cosmo, but everybody around her credited her because she was so selfless about it. And a lot since that story has been told about her creating it. Some people actually have speculated she wasn't a real person or even a real bartender. But we love the fuzzy narrative at STRAiGHTAWAY, and we love that kind of mystical bit of it. And so, of course, we went with the Miami Beach vibe, 1985. And so we've got, you know, our characters strolling out in their best white linen pants to go have a great night out on the town, and kind of reflecting the pastels and the vibe of Miami Beach back at circa 1985.
Super cool. Well, cheers to that.
Cheers.
Wow, that's awesome. Love it. Super cool. Really festive, really delicious.
Yeah, it has a couple little different tweaks that we did on it that people may not expect. Cosmos can kind of tend to get a little sweet. We weren't big fans of sweet drinks, and so we created a couple different things in there, give it a little bit of kick and really balance it out.
Super cool. Awesome. So in 2018, you and your co-founder, Casey Richwine, started STRAiGHTAWAY. Can you talk about how the company came to be and what it was that inspired you to take the leap into entrepreneurship?
Yes. I mean, we were just giant cocktail nerds and fans, and part of my travels with Starbucks, you know, I got to go everywhere. And so belling up to the best bars in New York or Austin or wherever we happen to be opening in our markets, or Miami for that matter, and just seeing what the bartenders were doing. And I think, you know, as Starbucks partners, we've all done so many cuppings and tastings of tea and coffee, but also just the endless permutations of drinks we can make behind the bar. And I think that's what's so cool about bartending at a really high level, is the art form of making a Negroni. A Negroni is just 3 ingredients. They're meant to be harmoniously balanced, a third, gin, vermouth, and Amaro. But no 2 Negronis are made the same. Every bartender has a different take. They're using a different spirit. They might bump some of the spirit up, some of the spirit down. How they finish with an ice cube or twist modifies the drink. And so I think for me, that really just captured my imagination of the endless permutations. And I think that that's just really fun. That everybody can be painted with the same colors, but come up with something radically different. And then I think, you know, part 2 for Casey and I, probably we often say our livers are our superpower. we just like a good cocktail. And so we got it after we figured out Lintic 7 years ago. We started bootlegging, and we would make a certain amount for friends and family on this little secret holiday distribution list and menu. We'd send it out. They would order it. We'd go make it in our kitchens and living room, and then put black tape on it, write what it was, deliver it for the holidays, and people would drink it or gift it or have it for the holidays. And every year we would just get more people wanting more of the product, and they'd give it to friends and family. And so it kind of started to snowball and take a life of its own. And it got to a point where we were shipping stuff. Not only were we breaking Oregon laws, state laws, selling alcohol not under any kind of license, we started sending it to friends and family in North Carolina or Texas or California. We're breaking federal laws. Michelle and I got relocated up to Vancouver, BC for her role at Lululemon for 2 years. We're shipping it up there. We're breaking international laws. And so I was at another startup, and this is my 5th startup that I've been a part of. The first time was really my concept with my buddy. But I was at another startup, and I just was kind of reached a crossroads. Casey and I did. And we're like, well, we're either going to do this or we're not. We'll be the guys at the end of the bar crying that we didn't go for it, and we see this whole movement happen, and we weren't a part of it. And so rather than go to jail or stop doing it, I quit my job 3 years ago to set up the brand and the company. Casey left his job 2 years ago to come on board and start making all the product. And yeah, here we are.
Super cool. You know, we've all had just these rich journeys at Starbucks over the years with interactive tasting experiences. Like in the early days, you know, in the building, you never had a meeting without a French press. and in the field, I know it was the same way, or in the store. And I was just cleaning out my closets this week, and I got those food service tasting kits. We all had a French press and 6 shot glasses, and I just found them yesterday, actually. And so, you know, I was thinking about this. It was ironic as we were getting ready for this, but I love the fact that you started a business where tasting is so integral to the experience, because that's just something that we all is really special about what we did, and such a ritual of Starbucks. So congrats for carrying that.
Yeah.
To your
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of it in those terms, but it's one of those things you look back in your life and your career, and there's so much interplay between all of it. It's just fascinating how it all comes together. And for us, tasting is so critical because for good reason, people can be skeptical of a ready-to-drink cocktail. There hadn't been a whole lot of it on the market that was really equivalent to what you might have at a best bar in Seattle or Portland or San Francisco. And so that was where we really saw the opportunity. Was no one was speaking to us as cocktail nerds, and we wanted to create something that was of that ilk that any bartender would be super proud to hand off at the best bar in the country.
Super cool. I'm looking at Angie McKenzie on the screen, and she's one of the best food and beverage R&D people in the business. She's here in Northern California. So I think, Cy, you and Angie could probably talk for a long time about some super cool iterations in the food and beverage world. Hi, Angie.
Nice to meet you, Angie.
Yeah.
I just moved it to all the tiles, so now I can see everybody. I just figured all that out.
Exactly.
Now I see so many smiling, familiar faces. It's amazing. Hi, everybody. Oh my goodness, that's so good. Love it. Doug, is this time for another drink?
Always.
Okay. So here I would take us to the paper plane next. Why not take a flight? So this is kind of a modern classic cocktail. So it's straight away, you kind of notice in our product lineup, we have cocktails that you would know. So like from Starbucks parlance, you know, a mocha or a latte. And then we can introduce drinks that we think people would love as much as an old fashioned or a margarita. And this is one of these. This is a modern classic from New York. If you have this at home right now and you're sipping it, it's a really fascinating drink. And I actually have my wife to thank for us launching this product as quickly as we did, because she's not a whiskey fan. And we ended up going on a little vacation. Casey had made us a batch of paper plane. I'm unpacking in one room, she's unpacking in the other, and she yells, "This paper plane's amazing, it's delicious." And I ran to the other room and I said, "You like that drink?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Do you know whiskey's in there?" She had no idea. And I think that's what's really interesting about this drink, is if you're a whiskey fan, you can pull it out of here. But if you're not a whiskey fan, like the Lintic, the gin plays so nicely in that cocktail that you can't tell gin is the root spirit. And so here you can't really tell that a rye whiskey is the root spirit. We also make all of our own Amaros in-house. And so there's 2 house-made Amaros in here as well. And then we do all of our own juice, all of our own bitters, all of our own simples in-house as well. And so that all culminates in this cocktail called the Paper Plane. When the bartender was riffing on this, it was driving him nuts. He was trying to get the final recipe right in his apartment in Manhattan. And when he finally struck gold, he was listening to MIA's Paper Plane song on his radio. So that's why it's named the Paper Plane.
Super cool. Amazing story. And, you know, I've got to ask about the artwork, because it's just a really incredible brand. I posted a few things on my Instagram pages personally and for my company, and people were like, "That is just beautiful packaging." So can you talk a bit more about that and how that all came together, Cy? Because it's a real art in creating a brand that way.
Yeah, sure. You know, I think when we looked at the category, to me, what stood out was straight away, cocktails are about connection. And, you know, if you're picturing your peak experience with a cocktail or a drink, it's usually with friends or family, and you haven't seen them for a long time, and you're getting back together at a bar stool or at home or now on a Zoom call. And it's that little spark of connection or that moment where you're just connecting again with these people. And I think for us, we really savored being that small part of that connection. And to us, that always meant fun. Like, we were laughing, we were having a good time, someone was cracking a joke. And when we looked at categories out there, what was on all the sets, it just felt like there was a lot of self-serious stuff. And specifically in certain categories like whiskey, it was like, who could out-toke the other guy? Like, whose packaging looked more gray and crackled and brown than the other guys to imbue age. And so for us, we were like, cocktails are fun. Like, let's be a part of the conversation. Let's help facilitate the conversation. And our labels are playful, but I think from a storytelling standpoint, one thing that's really unique about STRAiGHTAWAY, if I reflect back on my experiences in bars or restaurants or with great bartenders or even the other distillers that are amazing out there, no one really talks about the origin story of where these drinks came from. And I think that's something we really wanted to own and lean into and help people understand the history of the Cosmo and the history of Lintic and the history of the paper plane. And so the artwork reflects that. And for us, it's just kind of we like to kind of be an onion where there are layers and we don't come right out and hit you over the head with it. But there's more depth, the more you look at what we're doing, we like to shoot for that. Yeah. And so there's an amazing amount of talent here in Portland from a branding standpoint. And we hired a branding agency here who has just been phenomenal for us to work with. And we had 8 months before we launched the distillery and brand to figure out the aesthetic and get everything exactly the way we want it to be. And the rest is history. Well, congratulations. Flavia Bisi, who's on the call, who's one of the best designers I know, lives over in Berkeley. I love the artwork and the colors, how well they complement the color of the cocktail, beautiful and happy. So Flavia, thanks for making that comment tonight. Thank you. And one thing I should have said at the top of the hour, Sharina Salins is on this call with us as well. She is our par excellence general manager of guest experience, which is probably the most mission critical job we have here is the guest experience. And Sharina handles that. She manages the team, the tasting room, and other things for us too. And so Sharina's joined the call and make sure we can answer questions that are super STRAiGHTAWAY specific. I just want to make sure we got an introduction to Sharina. She's fabulous. Awesome. Welcome, Sharina, and thanks for joining us and for answering all the questions online. That's great.
Thanks, Doug.
Awesome. So you started this business. It's an incredible product, an incredible brand and story, but it couldn't be all perfect. I'm a small business owner, and it hasn't been easy for me the last 4 years, and I know it's challenging. We don't have the resources we have like at a big company like Starbucks where we all were. So what's the most difficult part of being a small business owner? For me, the magic of getting a brand up out of the ground and into market is I don't have the guts to be a rock climber, but it's the act of never looking down. Like, you can't pause to look and see what failure looks like because it's not tenable. And so I think that's a big part of it for us. And I think, with any brand, we were looking at onboarding a new marketing person this week, and we've got some amazing candidates, and we're offering to this person. And one of the things I always like to say to people joining our team or joining a startup is that, at your big company you're at right now, they're going to be in business in 2 years. At a startup, we're hustling for every day. No day is promised to us, and so we have to earn the next day through each one of our guest experiences and customer experiences. And I think that could be. We have a team of risk takers and pioneers on this team that don't give up, but I think it can be daunting. And if you look at failure, or you might end up on the side of the road, then it's a lot easier to start steering over there. If you just look where you want to go and keep going and keep going, I think that's when you have the best chance of getting across your finish line. Super cool. Great points. What about conversely? What's the most rewarding part of being a small business, Cy? Well, I would say, especially in this moment right now, like I feel incredibly proud about being able to offer positions and jobs and pay and opportunities. And I think that right now feels, as good as anything else could feel for us. I mean, we're working to find our path through all of this and find our audience and find our market. But the fact that we've been able to hire and keep people on the staff in a way that other businesses haven't been in the position to be as fortunate to do because of a lot of different circumstances right now, that feels really amazing. We also, as a startup, and especially our kind of startup, Casey and I had gone on the Bourbon Trail for his 40th birthday about 5 years ago. And we were kind of scouting the other distilleries in Kentucky and Louisville, and we kept hearing this refrain from all these amazing
distilleries over there, and they would like to say the best way to make a small fortune in distilling is start with a large fortune. And so this is a capital intensive business that we've started. And so we're upside down on a monthly basis. We're burning cash, but we know that as part of the plan, and we raise and we get there, and we grow our sales. But I think also that from the onset, we have given and we contribute to the community regardless of what our P&L looks like. I think that's something that hopefully the whole team would say they feel really good about as well.
Yeah. Super cool. Tell me if it's time for another cocktail break. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, Doug. I love where your head's at. Okay, margarita time. Okay, so this young lady, so this origin story of the margarita, there was a couple of different competing narratives, but we love this one the most. She was a dancer for the Siegfried Folly traveling dancing crew. She was allergic to every other kind of alcohol, but she hadn't tried tequila. So the bartender said, I'm going to try to make you something. And he whipped together the first margarita. Amazingly, she did not have an allergic reaction. The margarita was born. And so this is Marjorie right here, and she's got her best dancing shoes on. In our bigger bottles, you'll see her dancing shoes. Look, there's her dancing shoes right there. But this one's really fun because Casey makes a better cocktail than I do, and he's our maker. He came up in a winery in East Oregon, cut his teeth on all that. So where I've come by my palate by thousands of coffee and tea cuppings, he's come at it from a wine side of things and a beer, and he would make his own beers and meads and all this stuff, and just OCD level hobbyist, which was fantastic. So Casey's recipes are in every one of these bottles, but this is the one that I had been bootlegging for the last 7 years and making for friends and family. And this might have been Casey's biggest task, was to have to reverse engineer the way I make a cocktail, which is not scientific or measured at all. And so he had to figure out, how do we do that in a bottle that we can scale with, and with a recipe we can scale with. So what I like in a margarita is a little bit of heat. There's a little bit of mezcal in there, a little bit of smoke. We've got a mango habanero. We partnered with Jacobson Salt here in town. We dropped some of their salts in there to give it a little bit of salinity and depth, which actually gives it a really nice extra flavor profile. And we used Portland syrups here locally to partner with them, make a special mango habanero syrup for our margarita too. So that was a fun one. Getting the tequila from Mexico up here was quite the to-do. And now we know what we're doing, and the tequila can flow. But to figure out how to make the tequila flow the first time is quite the endeavor.
Awesome. Cheers to that, you guys. My first sip of the margarita, so cheers.
Oh, here we go.
Really delicious, pretending I'm in Cabo.
Yes.
Really good, wow. So I'm looking at like these faces on the screen, and I see Nancy Becerra from Stumptown Coffee, which is iconic in Portland. And I see Audrey Linkoff from Voodoo Donuts, which is iconic, and I'm probably missing one or two. So you're just living in this amazing place, Salt and Straw, Smith Tea Maker, you know, Blue Star, Voodoo, the list goes on and on. So talk about, you know, being there on Hawthorne in Southeast Portland, opening up a distillery to tasting room, and just the synergies that go on in an amazing food and beverage market like Portland, and how you guys all collaborate with one another is super special. And can you talk about that and how that's influenced your business?
Yeah, it's one of the things I love the most about being in Portland. And it really started back in the day with probably the wine folks and, you know, building out the wine industry here. And now we have world-class wines that compete and win against French and Italian wines. And then here came the craft beer folks, and then here came the craft distilling folks. And then so much invention inside of food, and the folks that you just mentioned on the call, and Voodoo and everybody else, and what Kim's done at Salt and Straw. I mean, and Stumptown too. It's what I think is fascinating to me is there is both at the same time this 100% air of collaboration. It's not an air, it's a real thing. Like, we call people and ask people questions that are business adjacent to us, or even in the same industry, and we'll talk for an hour about how did you make this happen, and we'll pick up the phone and do the same thing for startups here that are just getting off the ground and wanting to figure out an RTD cocktail to batch. We'll talk to them. And so I think that there's this really interesting sense of collaboration, which is fantastic. It helps you feel supported, but also at the same point in time, you have to have something meaningful here or else you won't make it. Like, the product has to be right, your messaging has to be right, you have to be a solution or something that's enhancing. It can't just be an additional product or brand, because the bar is so high, the food scene is so great, the cocktail and the coffee and everything else scene is so strong that inadvertently I think we've set a bar really high, and to get there, that's just kind of where you have to enter to make it. So I think in a weird way, no one would ever say like people are egging each other on and trying to push it and move it forward, but I think in a weird way, that's kind of what happens here. It's like you're inspired what so-and-so did down the street, and you're like, we want to execute at that level. We use Portland brands here as icons to say, that's where we want to be in 3 years, or these guys have done an amazing job. You know, you think about what I feel, so my heart goes out to the restaurants here and what those folks had built and made Portland what it was, and now they're having to shut doors. And you look at what Andy Richter did with Pock Pock, and now he's having to close. But that was one of the 5 things you were supposed to do when you come to Portland, was go get Ike's Wings, go down to Voodoo and get some salt and straw. And we set our North Star towards, we want to be one of those 5 things that you're supposed to do when you come to Portland and come see what we're doing at STRAiGHTAWAY.
Yeah, super cool. And what you guys are doing there in Portland, I know with COVID-19, it's been a direct hit and there's tons of challenges, but really inspiring, the things I'm reading about how people are banding together, and it's all about Portland. And so love how you're doing that. Love that you built that in and set that bar, and that North Star is so high for yourself. Can you talk about some, collaborations and community involvement, Cy? When you and I prepped for this Zoom call, you talked about how getting involved in the community is really important to you.
Yes.
I know you worked with Brew Dr. Kombucha, and Matt Thomas, the founder, is a friend of mine that did some work with him.
Yeah.
That was a big one for you. So maybe you could talk about Brew Dr. Kombucha and other things that you've done to support the community.
100%, and all this talking has maybe parched, Doug, so I feel like maybe we need to have another.
Let's do it. It's time.
Negroni. Has anybody had a Negroni out there? Okay, so if you haven't had a Negroni, the first time you have one, you're going to say, what in the hell is happening to my taste buds? They're being assaulted. This is a fascinating cocktail. This is Count Camillo Negroni himself. He was a dignitary in Italy. He bellied up to the bar one day and he said, rather than the Amaro and soda, and Amaros are these bitter botanical liqueurs and spirits that they use as digestif before and after meals. They're these amazing spirits. He asked, after a particularly long day, if they could forego the Amaro and Prosecco or Amaro and soda and throw some gin in that drink and put a little backbone to it. So he invented the Negroni. He's got his super fancy dignitary leather boots on, Italian boots. But he was enamored with the Wild West, and he immigrated to the U.S., and he literally learned how to ride and rope in the rodeo. And so that's why he has a stick horse and his cowboy hat there. That's Count Camillo.
Super cool. Wow. Well, I opted to open the Negroni Spritz.
Yes.
So I'd love to know a little bit about Spritz too. I know there's different ways that Negronis come together. So talk about a Spritz.
Yeah. So one of the things I super, super admire, as does Casey and our entire team, is in Italy, the aperitivo hour, you have a drink and food before you have more drink and food, and that's aperitivo hour, and that's just spectacular. So this is our homage, our love letter to that aperitivo hour in Italy, where they have a lighter ABV drink, a spritz, usually Amaro over soda or wine. And we weren't going to launch that until this year, but some Starbucks people, we end up everywhere. We're like locusts. And there's some Starbucks folks, some of my old friends and peers that ended up at New Seasons. Their COO had returned from a trip to Italy. He too had fell smitten with Amaro culture and aperitivo hour. He came back and he was talking to the office, if only somebody did something like that in a can or bottle. Kim Landreth of Kim and Brian Landreth fame. Some of you have worked with Kim and Brian in the past at Starbucks. Kim mentioned to him, hey, I might know somebody. A buddy's opening a distillery down the street. They came down to this little couch I'm sitting on January, 1 month after we'd opened. and said, if you guys are interested, we would take 5 SKUs this summer if you can get them built and launched. And so that was a super hustle, and we got those things built and figured out a year ahead of schedule. And it's really kind of a fun, refreshing drink. It is a wine-based drink. We're a control state here in Oregon, so you can't sell spirits in grocery stores. So we engineered this as a wine cocktail. So we partner with Willamette Valley Vintners here. When you're asking about partnerships, Doug, that's a good one. We'll partner with Willamette growers and use their Moscato, their Pinot Gris, their Rosé. Then we'll bring that in and we pair it with the Amaros that we make. So they're really cool, fun, bitey drinks. They pair well with all sorts of different foods. From a local partnership level, yeah, I mean, here comes the pandemic. Everybody's trying to figure out what in the world's going on. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks into it, there's a dire shortage of hand sanitizer. The FDA deputizes all the distilleries across the country to get into the sanitizer game. We know how to handle alcohol. We have access to alcohol. They give us a single formula all of us can follow. It's the World Health Organization's recipe. But what was happening, and still is happening, is everyday product is getting sucked out of the supply chain to deal with the pandemic. And so even distillers didn't have access to the neutral grain spirit we would use to start our distillation processes. So we couldn't even get our hands on enough spirit to do anything to help. But Seth, who was the head distiller and Amaro maker from Townsend's, and Townsend's was an offshoot of Brew Doctor. They were taking the excess effluent, the alcohol that you can't have in your kombucha. They would pair it out, send it back through this $2 million still that they've imported from Austria, repurpose it into 190 proof spirit, and we got access to that still. I pitched that and Brew Doctor because we didn't have a supply chain of getting more alcohol, and the only way we could do that was getting a renewable resource. So pitched the idea to them, can we take your effluent, can we repurpose it? You guys are paying to dispose of this effluent in Eastern Oregon. We'll buy it from you. You can monetize it. You don't have to throw it out. We'll repurpose it. We'll turn it into hand sanitizer. Parlay that into relationships with New Seasons and their private label team. And so the private label program for New Seasons hand sanitizer is our hand sanitizer. Our sales team hustled, and we got relationships with Zupans and a number of other local grocers. And we put product back on shelf that was missing, that was imperative to help slow down the spread of COVID. And so it was one of these really, I don't know if it would ever happen again, kind of quadruple win scenarios where even the product you're making is actually helping lessen the impact of a pandemic. And then we set that up as kind of a Warby Parker, Tom Shoes type of model. So when people buy our sanitizer, we donate sanitizer, and we've donated over $40,000 of sanitizer for more than 1 million people to use hand sanitizer. And so again, like that's just, we have a small team, but they go hard, and that was a lot to get done in the last few months for sure.
Yeah, really impressive. And one of the words I've heard you say a lot tonight is hustle. And I get the chance to work on purpose and core values with a lot of startup companies, and I hope hustle is part of your core values. That's a great example of hustling to get something done, and just regeneration and repurposing, and obviously incorporated into the purpose-driven brand you guys are creating. Super cool, Cy.
All you partners on this call, I think you'd love to see our values poster that we have in the back wall that Shereen has put together for us. And yes, I don't know what we'd say was our core value that tied to hustle, Sherina, but it's certainly in our DNA for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I want to make sure and take a question or two as I look at the clock here at 5:55 from some people on the screen here. And I saw one a second ago that I'm going to scroll down to from a Green Apron Alliance member who says, I have a question for Cy. I'm a bootlegger too, and I want to know about the cost associated with becoming legit.
Well, mental costs, emotional costs. What you're going to have to do, there's a time horizon that you'll have to have a sober analysis with. So because it's so regulated, handling alcohol, the government treats it a little bit like we're handling raw uranium. And so with spirits, you have to be prepared for that. So there's a ton of licensing that you have to go through. you do it through the federal government, the TTB, and you do it through your state, wherever you're bootlegging. And so you can do both in tandem, but the federal part, as fast as you can go through the federal part, if you really know what you're doing with the paperwork, they can turn around in about 4 months. The states tend to turn it around faster. But one thing that the federal government's going to need to have in place before you even submit your paperwork is you have to prove that you have a lease on a manufacturing site where it's approved to handle hazardous material like alcohol. So you may be able to partner with another distillery that's up and running and see if they will allow you to run your DSP, it's called, on their license as well, a dual DSP. Or you're going to need to take a look at you're going to need to get in your car and start looking for places you can do it. I can tell you I was in my car for every weekend, almost for 6 months, looking for an appropriate site for us to open our first place. I'd say patience. And
the challenges, patience is a big word, I can imagine. Yeah.
It took us a year. I mean, we had to sign the lease in January. We could not start ringing people until, legally, we weren't supposed to ring people until December 4th, but of course we're bootleggers and we may or may not have had a soft opening over Thanksgiving week.
May or may not, that is the question.
Yeah, not for us to say.
Hey, I'm looking at the clock, 3 minutes till we're gonna wrap up. I'm sure there is a beverage we haven't tasted yet, so we need to do that. And then I've got another question or two and we'll wrap up here. So what should we drink next?
I think we have to slide across home plate together with the old fashioned. This will be our highest proof cocktail. If there's old fashioned fans out there, we love them too. We like a rye old fashioned, so we use 2 different types of Tennessee rye. One's a 91%, one's a 55%, and we blend those to where we want them to be. We make our own bitters out of filbert and fir needle, so the state nut and tree, so you get this woodsy taste of Oregon underneath it. And then this is an 82 proof old fashioned. So 2 ounces at a time will do you just fine, unless you got a couch handy, and then you can go for more. But every one of our cocktails, once you open them, they don't expire like maybe beer or wine might. They stay good just like a bottle of vodka, whiskey, or gin would. On the backs of every one of them, we give drinking directions about how you prepare it. Old-fashioned room temp, a Negroni at room temp. We are accounting for the dilution that you're going to have with your giant, awesome square ice cube that you all have at home. And then the twist of orange that you put over the top. And the other ones that say refrigerate just because they taste better cold. You'll also notice that we get separation and sediment in our drinks. That's because we're insane enough to do our own juice.
Super cool. Cheers.
Cheers. Salute.
Wow. So maybe one more question here, Cy, and then we'll wrap up. This has been super amazing, and I think I've got enough cocktails open to feed my neighborhood here tonight. So it's going to be a fun night in my Koob neighborhood. But what's next? I mean, you're obviously riding a great wave of innovation and pre-mixed cocktails, and people are home quarantined and having their favorite cocktail. And so you just launched a margarita, which is delicious. What's next for STRAiGHTAWAY in terms of new product development, and how do you make decisions about what you're going to invent next? Yeah,
this is probably where we're a little bit crazy. You don't want to overskew, but also the way I kind of look at our business is we're really a bar. So we are the bar, and you are the bartender at home. And so you bring the bar to you when you bring our stuff in, and really a proper bar needs to have options. So we're building out our options so that you've got every spirit. You can see here that we don't have a rum drink in our cocktail lineup, and I'd keep an eye on us for middle of 2021 for those rum lovers out there. A double top secret that I will reveal on this phone call because I love all of you as partners. We were about to launch, right when COVID struck, every one of our spritzers, our Negroni and our paper plane, have our own house-made Amaros in them. And we were about to roll those out, and then COVID hit. And so we paused, and now 4 months later, we feel like the time is still right for us to move forward with those and give them a go. So it'll be a kind of a sister brand, STRAiGHTAWAY. STRAiGHTAWAY is the brand that gives you the finished product. You don't have to do anything other than have a great glass and ice and a twist. This will be a sister brand. We may say something like powered by STRAiGHTAWAY or STRAiGHTAWAY joint on the back, or who knows, but they'll be Amaros, so they're classic ingredients that a bartender can work with and replace, these giant conglomerates of Campari or Aperol or Chartreuse, and have a locally made alternative to those types of products. And so come fall, watch the space for a possible Amaro launch.
Really exciting, and just love brand extensions and product extensions. So really excited to see that in the next few months. So congratulations, and looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Wow, well, you guys at 6:01, and so we need to wrap up here with our happy hour with Cy. But just can't thank Cy enough for joining us tonight. We're truly honored to have him kicking off this series, Inspired Stories from the Kitchen for the Green Apron Alliance. Congratulations, Cy, on all the incredible work that you and the team are doing to build the STRAiGHTAWAY brand and business. It's really impressive and inspiring to all of us. There's lots of people on the screen, I know, thinking about their next thing in their career, and it's always so helpful to hear people talk about how they built something from the ground up. And so there's so many takeaways from our conversations tonight. Green Apron Alliance members on the Zoom tonight, Cy has generously offered to extend a special offer on all the STRAiGHTAWAY products for Green Apron members for 4 more weeks. So go on to the Green Apron Alliance platform and you'll see the order form. It needs to be done through the order form. You can't do it online or website or anything. It's just the one form. So fill out the form, email it into the address on the sheet, and order your products. They're delicious for those of you that didn't have them tonight. And so yeah, thank you, Cy. Can't thank you enough. And looking forward to see you in Portland when this whole COVID thing is over, and stopping by the distillery there on Hawthorne and having a beverage. And I hope you stay engaged with us here at Green Apron Alliance. It's a great network, really amazing community. And we're forming a business partnerships group and team that I'm leading. And so we're really honored to have you as part of that group and look forward to engaging with you in the future. Thank you, Cy.
Thanks for having me. This has meant a lot to me. The whole team knew how excited I was to get on this call with you all today. So just thank you guys. It's so great to see everybody. And we're here for drinks or a conversation whenever you need us. Awesome.
And one just quick promo for the future and what's ahead for Inspired Stories from the Kitchen. We're excited to have an all-star lineup like Cy, alumni who are cooking up some great products, some great brands, and some great companies. So next up, I kind of let the cat out of the bag earlier, is Tony Tellen, the founder of A. Tellen Company, which is an artisan tea company based in Oregon City, just up the street from Cy. And many of you undoubtedly know Tony, as he's one of the premier tea minds in the country and had an incredible career at Tazo Tea and Smith Tea Maker. And now he recently followed his dream and started his own tea company. And so you can learn more about Tony and his business at atellenco.com. But August 6th at 5 p.m. Pacific time, Tony will be joining us, and we'll have an interactive tea tasting opportunity to hear about his journey at Tazo and Starbucks and beyond. So mark your calendars now and look on the Green Apron platform for some special offers from Tony's Tea, so you can enjoy the tea just like you did tonight with the cocktails. So Cy, again, thank you so very much. Thanks for everyone for making time here this evening, and everyone stay safe and healthy out there.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.